Now, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
If John was beaten up and attacked in that house, who did it?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. And it's not for us to know. Somebody other than Karen is responsible for that, for the killing of John.
Yeah. Roberta in the truth zone, mic hitting raw. Spotlight shining, she exposing the flaw. Debunking the myth, breaking their facade. This is Glass City, respect the squad. On these NYC blocks where the skyline flex big. Roberta Glass slicing lies with a truth rig. Innocence Fraudsters, your stories unravel. She's a map through the madness of gritty gravel. Glass don't bend and facts don't break. She's a storm that's called, you feel the quake. Exposing tales, stitched with crooked seams. Justice in the lens, shattered fake dreams. Screams about killers, painted heroes in disguise. She burning propaganda with fire in her eyes. No glamour for the guilty, she call it straight. She backs victims, the voice stay away. Stats and receipts, no spin, no clutter. Cold cases whisper, she cuts through the mutter. Truth's her tempo, don't confuse the beat. She's standing for the real while you taking a seat. True crime's a block, facts the artillery. Spinning those lies, yo, she checks that misery. Tabloid tales get smashed, no time to play. She's glass hard, break the false and save the day. True crime's a block, facts the artillery. Spinning those lies, yo, she checks that misery. Tabloid tales get smashed, no time.
Okay. How is everyone? Hello, Taterbug. Nice to see you, Jill. Lackadaisical, Dark Side, Angela, Rose. Larry P. Hello, everybody. Let me reflect. On ARCCA. I've been thinking about these ARCCA witnesses. We're going to go over a little bit of the timeline with ARCCA. We're going to have another voir dire, as we've seen so often in this Karen Read case, because the defense cannot cooperate with their discovery obligations. Let's put that another way, with not so euphemistic. The defense refuses to hand over what is required for them to defend their client and chooses to try to cheat to win. We are going to have another voir dire as punishment. It's not much of a punishment for the defense, but we'll take it. It's a lot of too little, too late, in my opinion. Too little, too late. So Karen Read and her defense team, while not being the best lawyers in the world, you know, if they were great lawyers, they wouldn't have to cheat to win. They would be using their great lawyering skills in the law to win their case for their client. But because they are so outmatched as far as just the amount of evidence against Karen Read, they've chosen to cheat to win, use dirty tactics, start an innocence fraud campaign, pre-trial, and all that was in an effort. You can see, I read last night Karen Read's own words saying, look, you know, I'm not going to trial. She thought all this pressure, hire crowds, that's true. We don't know if she hired crowds. Certainly there has been we've never seen those kind of crowds again that she had when 2020 was filming her. Is that right? Or is that Nightline? I get them all confused. Was filming her outside the courthouse. It's been suggested that they might have been crowds paid for, astroturfed crowds. She has between like 15 and 25 people in front of the courthouse now at her trial. Big difference in last trial. She thought that that would put pressure on the Commonwealth, and also by starting this federal investigation into her case, that she thought that that would make the state drop the case, but it didn't. Again, she went to trial. Then she thought that just having this huge innocence fraud campaign would have her case acquitted. And so then they sought out a documentarian. I use that word very loosely. Let's call it a TV show crew, cameras for ID Discovery to film her. And boy, has it bitten her in the behind. Because now Hank Brennan has her narrating her own murder trial. And boy, is it effective. So if you don't know what I mean, if you haven't been following the trial, what I mean by that is there will be testimony. And after testimony, Hank Brennan will say, pull up clip number 65, something like that. And there's Karen Reed going, well, I was drinking and the drinks weren't very strong. This is just me riffing on it. This is not Karen Reed's own words. But the drinks weren't strong. I was combining drinks. They were so weak, I had to get shots and pour them into my drinks. And everyone I've talked to in my personal life is like, that is the kind of behavior you see from alcoholics, talking about weak pours. So she essentially is admitting to driving drunk. Then she says she's a great drunk driver, but she would have been a better driver had she not been drinking. So, I mean, I don't know how you don't just convict her now on the drunk driving charge, but okay. Then we have her saying, could I have clipped him? I did say I hit him, but I'm not sure I said it as many times as the Commonwealth says I said it. So she's saying here that she did not say, did I hit him? Did I hit him? And never said I hit him. She's saying, I said I hit him. I'm just wondering if I said it as many times as the Commonwealth said I did. I mean, it is crazy effective. And what also I've been thinking about, what also makes it so effective is I don't think that people are really watching this trial, many of them. I know a lot of people in my audience are watching every minute of this trial with me. And I will be live streaming tomorrow's testimony starting at 9 a.m. So I'll see you there, all those who like to watch the trial with me. But I don't think that people are super focused on every minute of every testimony. And so what this does, as far as Karen Reed narrating her own murder trial, is it makes a great shorthand and great clips to play on the news over and over again. For those that missed it, here's Karen Reed admitting to this. For those that missed it, here's Karen Reed admitting to that. Here's Karen Reed admitting to this now. Here's Karen Reed mocking John O'Keefe's mother and making up a story that never happened. Here's this. It is so damning. So back to these ARCCA witnesses. There has just been this mystery about who hired them. I mean, really hired them, because they will not hand over their text messages. So the question, and they say, well, we can't hand over text messages because, and before they were talking about communications, everyone knows that any kind of communications with an expert witness, you have to save. But apparently, Robert Alessi is confused between emails. When he said communications, apparently he just meant emails in this day and age. It's absurd. It's absurd. Thanks very much, Pat Brooks. Roberta, you are the best. I do have the best moderators. I do. I do have the best moderator for sure. Thank you. Thank you, Maestro. And best chat and community. I think so. but I'm biased. I'm biased, Pat. Thank you very much. It's very generous, and thank you. So we don't really know. We know that these ARCCA witnesses came from the federal investigation, but when you go back and you look, where did they really come from? Did Yannetti, who practices law in this area, did Yannetti use ARCCA before? Did Jackson use ARCCA before? Did they have a prior relationship with ARCCA before? Did Jackson Yannetti suggest that the federal investigation hire them? There is so much collusion between Karen Reed's defense team and this federal investigation. It's hard to take apart, and it's so hidden that we don't know. So what is the defense hiding? Why did they delete their text messages? We're going to talk about that today. Also, big news in Sofagate. Kate Peter has written a blog. I'm going to look at that. What else is up on the docket? I'm going to look at a wrongful conviction case connected to this. Connected to the ARCCA witnesses, and we're going to go back in time and try to puzzle this out together. Why is the defense getting rid of their text messages? And then Alessi tells the court, Your Honor, we can't give something over that doesn't exist. Boy, doesn't that show motivation to make something not exist, to delete a text message, to get rid of it, to not have to hand it over. We can't hand over something that we made now non-existent. We can't hand it over. It's gone. It's like throwing something in the shredder and going, well, we can't give it to you now. It's gone. It's not our fault that it's gone. We just threw it in the shredder. I mean, what are we talking about here? Are we still living in reality? This is like no court case I've ever covered. It's so like the Wild West. It's so lawless. It's really, ultimately, innocence fraud is organized crime. That is what it is. And Karen Reed's defense attorneys are acting like a bunch of mobsters. All right. First off, before we get into it, let's get into Couchgate. So, Sofagate, Couchgate. I did it for the sofa. What is this all about? So yesterday, and I'm not really going to get into all the allegations. There was a lot. But basically, in an effort, and what this is that, what I got from it is that Aidan Carney has learned a lot from Karen Reed and learned a lot about innocence fraud. And he wants Kate Peters' phones. He wants her communications so he can exploit any kind of embarrassing detail, anything that might be good for his case, anything that he can use to his advantage. So he got one of his minions. I don't know if she moved next door. We've learned a little bit more now that she was next door to Kate Peter to pretend to befriend Kate Peter. And she says that she admitted that she's friends with Hank Brennan, that she personally heard Kate Peter talking to Hank Brennan on the phone. I cannot know. Now, Kate Peter denies a lot of this. I cannot know if any of it is true. A lot of it doesn't make a lot of sense rationally. It doesn't mean it's not true. I can't know. I just can't know. With the no receipts were given, but that Adam Lally knew the foreperson of the last trial and was personally guaranteed a mistrial. Why would he want a mistrial? Anyway, and that Kate Peter is working for the Commonwealth as like a secret agent and getting paid via Cash App. Okay. It read pretty much like a conspiracy novel, but it's a sworn affidavit. Kate Peter answered back. Let's look at her answer now. just to sort of put this to a close. It's really just kind of, it's hard for me to report on it because I just don't know. I don't have enough information. I don't know. It sounds wild, certainly, and sounds like something that might be untrue. But are there speckles of truth in it? Maybe. Is there more than speckles of truth in it? Maybe. I mean, who could know with what's been being provided? Here we go. So this is Sofagate, the truth about Sofagate and the link is, all my links that I use are in the description of this episode. I take great pains so that you can dig into this material after the podcast and live stream is over. Karen Reed and Aidan Carney are on a quest to obstruct justice and distract from their guilt, and they won't let the truth get in their way. Yesterday, all of my X feed was ablaze with what I have dubbed Sofagate, hundreds of mouth-breathing idiots excitedly chattering about how I certainly, definitely, absolutely am going to jail. Their source of their excitement was this affidavit filed under impounded in the Commonwealth versus Carney case, but posted by Carney himself anyway. So here's the whole thing. So she got a screenshot right when it was posted in its entirety. Peter asked me to go stalk Karen Reed at the seaport with her and stated that Karen Reed stays at the Omni Hotel. She stated to me that we can take phones to sell to the Daily Mail. We can take photos to sell to the Daily Mail, and that she has done it before. I don't believe that's illegal. Peter informed me that Jennifer McCabe, stalking is illegal, but she's a public figure and paparazzi certainly isn't. Peter informed me that Jennifer McCabe brought her brand new sectional as compensation for her assistance. And certainly Kate Peter put up her brand new sofa when she got it online. It probably goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. This entire affidavit is an abject fantasy. You may be surprised, even shocked, that Carney's licensed, experienced attorneys would file something that's outlandish, particularly without any verification beyond the word of someone who doesn't even want their name attached to it in the public sphere. However, I'm not. This is simply yet another instance of Carney and his legal team coercing a vulnerable person to lie to try to advance their insane narrative that Carney, a man who filmed and broadcast his crimes all across the internet, repeatedly was somehow framed and set up by the nefarious Norfolk County DA's office and made. Are you effing kidding me? And then there's like kind of a meme there. Beyond the obvious and ludicrous claims made by this mystery affidavit, there are glaring problems right from the jump with this whole saga. First and foremost is that Carney publicly threatened to eviscerate this woman if she didn't come through with the information he wanted, while also describing her claims as BS. So we can listen to Carney here.
It's a long story about that whole thing about like Yannetti filed a motion saying that there's government witnesses who don't want to testify, or implying that we would like a list of them, right? So I know everything about that. I know everything about that. What I'm saying is this is all I'm going to say because I'm frustrated with that. I've seen no evidence of that. And if this source is full of shit and is wasting everyone's fucking time, I'm going to fucking eviscerate her. Fucking eviscerate her. Do not waste my lawyer's time. Do not waste Karen Reed's lawyer's time with your fucking bullshit. That's all I'm going to say about that. And you know who you are, JD. You know. So I certainly because you never talked to me. For some reason, you reached out to my lawyers. And you seem to really want to be involved in this case, but you never spoke to me. So I don't know you better be fucking serious. If I find out that you're wasting everyone's fucking time with conspiratorial bullshit, I'm going to be fucking pissed and I'm going to fucking say some shit. So you better fucking deliver or else I'm going to be fucking pissed. Do not waste my lawyer's time. Do not waste Karen's lawyer's time. That's what I have to say about that. So that whole motion that you see there, as far as I'm concerned, from what I've seen, It's complete fucking bullshit from somebody. It's just yet another person who wants to be fucking involved. That's all I've seen. Now they can prove me wrong. They can prove me wrong, but I'm sick of having everyone's time wasted with that shit. So they better fucking come through. That's all I'm gonna fucking say about that. I've had quite enough about that. It's fucked up when you see everyone in the comments.
I mean, the language. There goes my monetization for today. I mean, the language is crazy. Effing and blind in every word. It's like being beaten over the head. It's so aggressive. Okay, it's as much as I can take. That's as much as I can take for aided dirt avoid Cardi. It's like, you better come through. Okay. Of course, Karen Reed and her term used this BS to fish for information on any witnesses' reluctance to testify against her, rather inexplicably, if you ask me, because undoubtedly any witness reluctant to testify would feel this way because of this relentless campaign of witness intimidation against them, orchestrated by Ms. Reed and carried out largely by Carney. He threw out the initials JD as he threatened this supposed witness to couch bribes and cash app payments from Michael Morrissey, and that was the beginning of the end for this whole scheme. Whoever could JD be? It didn't take long for me to figure out. Meet Jean Dorchester. Jean is your run-of-the-mill free Karen Reed lunatic. She has lied about knowing John O'Keefe personally. And here's Jean Friedis at Jean Dorchester on X saying, or Twitter, really, you're telling people who have been trying to get justice for John for over 2 years, some of us who know him personally, we all tell you, including John, to F off. And it goes on. Jen McCabe is going to prison. Jen McCabe is going to jail. Oh my God, you're embarrassing. Jen never ran into that house. And also repeatedly vowed that she won't stop until she puts us all in prison. This has some bias that the court may find helpful in knowing about when weighing this woman's fan fiction as an affidavit. She's also my neighbor, having moved into my building a little under a year ago, right under the heels of one of her many evictions. There's an eviction of hers. My landlord needs to vet his tenants. She is a nightmare tenant who doesn't pay her rent, refuses to vacate when court ordered to do so, and lives with 4 or 5 cats, not neutered or spayed, who continue to have kittens that she cannot care for. Some who do not survive, more on that later. Luckily, I learned that she is being tossed from my building for the same song and dance as dozens of landlords in the last 8 years have had to take, though I doubt she'll go quickly. In fact, she was apparently supposed to be out this weekend, but the landlord seemed to be under the impression that she was incarcerated. So right off the bat, we have here a woman deeply entrenched in the Free Karen Reed movement, consuming all of the Carney's crazy stories of imaginary corruption and setups, with severe financial issues, possibly facing homelessness, who was apparently grappling with legal problems that resulted in short incarceration. That very week that this insane affidavit was written and signed in Carney's attorney's office, after being very publicly threatened by Carney to provide this bunk information. Curiously, none of this made its way to the court's attention, but luckily we have 3 more days until Carney's next court date. I was friendly with Jean, but not friends. She was my neighbor, and she was friends with another one of my neighbors who is a clean, conscientious, quiet, and friendly woman with a nice, hardworking boyfriend, so Jean didn't send off many alarm bells for me. We would sometimes chat in my driveway or when I was outside in the yard with my dogs. She had cats and seemed to love animals, which clearly won points with me, as I think even Free Karen Reed people who observe me online can concede I am fanatical about my pets. We had a normal, neighborly relationship, chatty when we'd run into each other, but not overly so. My son or daughter saw the women struggling up the stairs with groceries or packages, they would help. We chat about sprucing up the property in the spring. Our pets are goings on in the building or on our dead-end working-class street. It was nothing out of the ordinary. At some point around November, Jean and I began chatting about the Karen Reed case when we would run into each other outside, and she pretended to know nothing about the case. Obviously, that was a very intentional lie. Here she is on X saying John was the aggressor and they were all drunk. Fight broke out. Colin hit him over the back of the head with a weight. That was the final blow. Dog attacked. Even the dog got into it. The dog attacked John. That's why they killed Chloe. Well, they didn't kill Chloe. We didn't have each other's phone numbers until December because her cat had given birth to kittens, and so she could not keep them with all the other cats she already had, so I offered to help rehome them. My daughter's friend took one of the kittens, vetted him, and is now giving him a very nice life. The other kitten had an umbilical hernia that Jean was concerned about, so I called a friend who is a veterinarian. She told me not to worry too much about it, that they were somewhat common and often resolve on their own. That was that until the end of February when Jean brought down the kitten, showed me a huge lump that had not resolved. She was worried and stated she didn't have the money to take the kitten to the vet. I offered to help. Now is a good time to show you what has since become the biggest red flag about this woman. We weren't close, and I didn't have a good grasp of her name. On March 1st, I set her up with a free office visit with my veterinarian and offered to drive her, as she does not drive or have a car. I didn't even really know her name at this point, so I needed her full name to book the appointment. She gave me a fake name. Do you know a time, Monday? If you can't go, I can ask to, someone else to take me. I need your name to lock it in. Sorry, Gina DeFreitas. Thank you. Does 2:45 work? Also, what's your email? Yes, I think that works. Let me just ask one question. I can take you if she can't. No, I was just asking her something else. I know she needed me to help her with something on Monday. Not sure what time. Give me 1 minute. One more question, LOL. When were they born? I think it was December, but I'm a space. Yes, end of November. Okay, just let me know and I'll book this and all the info will be sent to you. I can definitely take you. This woman had introduced herself to me as Gina and told me her name is Gina DeFreitas, but it's not. Her name is Jean Colantano. This is like a woman of a million aliases. This is like very common among people who are, what do I call it? Very aggressive, kind of stalkery people. They all have like different accounts and fake accounts and different names that they go under, aliases and stuff. Like multiple aliases. Do you care? Rented a car a month ago. Okay, so Jean, what was the name on this reservation? Marie Perry and Jean Colantonio. Okay, I was nice to Jean. I helped her with a kitten, make sure that they got to the vet. Another time she needed a ride to the bank, so I took her on my way to take the dog to the vet. The only phone call I made in front of her was to my vet to inform them that I'd be about 15 minutes late because I was dropping her off to the bank. No phone calls to Hank Brennan, whom I do not speak to. Adam Lally, also do not speak to. Michael Morrissey, also do not speak to. Or even Jen McCabe, who I do speak to. When Jean lost her debit card and was complaining she couldn't buy cigarettes, I picked her up a pack and left it in her mailbox for her because I used to be a smoker myself and definitely know that feeling. I am just pointing this out because it makes the whole situation that got much more gross and disappointing for me. I was kind to this woman, neighborly. When she asked for help, I helped. Obviously, the entire time she knew who I was, had very strong negative feelings about me, and hid her actual identity from me. So why seek me out and ask for help? Why not just see me outside and tell me to go F myself, or better yet, just keep walking? And what on God's green earth would compel this woman hold on, who clearly has more pressing issues in her personal life to jeopardize her own reputation and possibly liberty to author such outlandish and easily debunked lies to benefit Aidan Carney. For starters, Jean Colentano has an extensive criminal record, compromised mostly of violent crime and theft. After her last eviction before moving in here, she briefly moved in with her sister, stole her identity, and used it to defraud a car rental business. This is nothing new for Jean, though. She's got a long history of stealing from and defrauding others. My landlord really needs to start vetting tenants. I understand that things happen, and sometimes we fall on the wrong side of the law. I get that. I really do. But it is jarring to learn, particularly under the context of a lunatic hiding their identity from you while penning complete lies to tamper with a murder case and serious felony witness intimidation case, that someone with such a long, consistent history of identity theft, serious assault, and fraud lives right upstairs from where your children sleep and where you keep all of your worldly belongings. My mailbox doesn't even lock, and my vehicles are left unattended in my driveway all night long. Much like her hero, Karen Reed, Jean also hit someone with her car in a rage. Although luckily her victim was not seriously injured and survived, John O'Keefe was not so lucky with Karen. Why does this all matter? Well, I was approached by a witness yesterday who informed me that what Jean had done. Jean had told her that shit was about to go down and the police may be looking for her. She informed this witness that she had approached Karen Reed and Aidan Carney's lawyers and had written and signed a false affidavit. She explained to this witness that she had done it to get help with her clearing up a couple of warrants. I looked into this and it checked out. A couple of warrants was actually 5 warrants from 2021 to 2022 out of Quincy and Brockton district courts. And lo and behold, Jean had indeed been on the run from these warrants for nearly 3 years until April 24th and April 25th, just mere days ago. And in the same week that she had signed this false affidavit, in fact, she has to go to Brockton District Court tomorrow to clear up the last remaining warrant that I can find. This is problematic, as she not only signed a document filled with outlandish claims about the pain and penalties of perjury, she also asserted that she did so without any inducement or coercion under the same, and that is clearly untrue. She was threatened publicly by Carney and came to them with the expectation that they would help her clear these warrants. The same witness was also present for many of my conversations outside with Jean, particularly when my sofa was delivered. So she witnessed and participated in the conversation about where I'd ordered it from and what I was paying for it. It was ordered by me, delivered in my name, financed under my credit, and paid for out of my bank account with my money. This is possibly the most humorous claim because it is so arbitrarily and easily disproven. But I understand Jean was working with what she had and working with what she could to craft lies. She did see my furniture being delivered and me lugging it into my house. I don't know where she came up with the call with Hank Brennan or the cash app payments with Morrissey, payments from Jennifer McCabe, lunch with Lally, meetings in Braintree with Morrissey, or weird manila envelopes. I find it notable that she's offered up no dates on her affidavit, and good luck if she tries now. My phone GPS data shows I haven't been to Braintree for years. I can account for my comings and goings on any given day. I work at home, sometimes run out for work. I drive my kids around, do volunteer work on certain days every week, take my pets to vet appointments, run errands, go to the dog park. My life is boring, and my movements are predictable. Nowhere in my schedule are there any clandestine meetings with NCDAO staff. And another outlandish claim she made is that I know Karen Reed is innocent. That was never part of our conversations, quite the contrary. Okay. So I'm going to leave it. I'm going to really leave it there. I mean, it just goes on, but I think that gives you the sense of it. If you want to read the whole thing, the link is in the description of this. episode. Hi, Manny. Thanks for the super sticker. So, back to Karen Read. Yesterday, before I get into the ARCCA stuff, just want to pull up. Actually, I'm going to take a quick break. I just got to get something to drink. That was a lot of reading. I will be right back. Don't go anywhere. When you get back, is there a rift in Karen Read's defense team? Also, going through the history of the ARCCA witnesses, what to expect tomorrow's hearing. ARCCA is been asked to come in with all the communications between themselves and the defense team. You know, these one of these witnesses perjured themselves before saying that they weren't being paid in front of the jury in the court. So they weren't being paid by the defense. So can we trust them to bring in all the communications between themselves and the defense? When we get back, don't go anywhere.
Mic check, Roberta strides through the static haze. True crime Gotham where the shadows play their plays. Fraudsters fold when a spotlight beams. Fact focused queen busting propaganda schemes. Glass shatter lies echoes through the streets. Standing for victims, giving voice their beats. NYC Post, truth sharp as night. Roberta exposing she's the anti-fraud light. Hard task warrior, dissecting state and defense. Twisted innocence, claims breaking pretense. Gotham's truth seeker cuts clean with the blade. Facts in the forefront, no justice gets swayed. Cold facts drip heavy, real talk unfurls. Cracking cases open like oysters with pearls. Innocence gimmicks crumble to dust in the wind. For victims, her creed, justice till the end. Headphones blazing, she drops heavy artillery. Narratives twisted, meet blunt object civility. Roberta got receipts that unravel the ploy. Exposing the lies these fraudsters deploy. Glass shatters lies, echoes through the streets. Standing for victims, giving voice their beats. NYC Post, truth sharp as night. Roberta exposing she's the anti-fraud light.
Asks, who is ARCCA? ARCCA are the witnesses for the defense who said that they were non-biased, totally objective witnesses hired by the federal investigation, which was a favor to Karen Read and David Yannetti by Josh Levy, the Attorney General. We don't know. There's also deeper connections. We'll go into it. But they get up on the stand and they say we weren't being paid. And then we find out that they were being paid and that there were communications not handed over last trial between the defense. We'll go all over it. We'll go over it. We'll go over it. Get into it. So maybe a long one, guys. I'm trying to move through it swiftly. I don't have a really great sense of how long it takes me to do things. But I did want to play this. I thought this interview on Court TV was interesting. On opening statements with Julie Grant, with John DiPietro. It's a short one. And he's talking about issues in Karen Read's defense team. Let's take a listen.
The show Road Patrol Live, someone who's followed this case from the very beginning, our friend John DiPietro. John, good morning to you. I want to ask you, please, about the clips. I love following you on social media, and you've been saying that, in your opinion, these clips are having quite an impact in round 2 with this new jury. Would you share with us why you say that, please?
Absolutely. And Julie, and first of all, I apologize, the casual dress. We were on fugitive task force this morning.
Oh, that's awesome.
In court,
Did you catch anybody?
I can't reveal until after they go through, because there's undercover people involved and so forth. But anyhow, and I will be in the courthouse and in the courtroom next week. What is so significant, and you just saw it, and that was a no comment, nothing to Matt Johnson from Karen Reed. And Julie, 1 week ago.
So what he's referring to is when Karen Reed walked out of the courtroom saying nothing. Saying absolutely nothing. And she's been very chatty with the press. Now she's clamming up. Possibly because she's being presented with videos of the consequences of her own statements. And when she does give statements, Alan Jackson's telling her to stay, continue, stay, continue. I mean, giving her orders under his breath next to her. It's like she's got full-time handlers. It's very odd.
There she was strolling out saying, come at me and bring it on. And a week later, suddenly she is saying nothing. What I am hearing is this is just devastating inside the courtroom. And how can it not be? That last clip, Julie Grant, you just played, I mean, someone complaining about a weak pour, that is something that you hear from most of the time from people that have some kind of a drinking problem. The fact that she would say that,
that's exactly what my boyfriend said. He's like, he's like, that is someone with an issue. It's like, that's alcoholic territory we're talking about there. He said, I was telling him about it. He said the same thing.
She would say that on film just is beyond imagination. But what I am hearing right now is not only is this having impact, these clips that Hank Brennan has put in, and as someone said, it does kind of act like a commercial break where suddenly everybody tunes in to watch the latest Karen Reed clip. What is so damaging, not only is it making an impression on the jury, and remember, she's sitting there silently and they're hearing her speak in these ways, and it's so derogatory and it's so negative. But on top of that, I'm hearing it's having an effect on the defense team. Nobody likes to be in a losing team. This is a group that have been together for a very long time. They spend a lot of time together. I'm hearing this, and it's very uncomfortable. There's a lot of finger pointing that's starting to go on. There's a lot of uncomfortable conversations and behavior in the hallways, outside the courtroom. I'm not sure how there couldn't be. Julie, not only are these clips taking a toll on the jury and on the case, I believe, and I'm hearing, and I can't wait to witness it, but it's having an impact on Karen Reed and her relationship with her defense team. Now, I can't believe I'm about to say that, but in defense of Karen, what I'm about to say, defense of Karen Reed, as much as people are saying, why was she talking and why was she doing this? As you know, that this was green lighted by the defense team. This was part of their strategy. We're going to put this out. We're going to taint the jury pool. They thought, as many people are asking, why would she say these things? They thought this was going to be the victory lap. They thought they were going to be successful last spring. They thought by the time people were going to see this, that they were going to be long gone. That's not what's happened. Now, people need to understand, Tuesday was opening arguments. Yesterday, Karen Reed said, well, everybody's tired. I mean, that's not something you want to say as you are barely limping to the finish line in the first week, without question. Right. There's no way the Reed defenders can say that this has gone the way they wanted. As I had predicted, the Karen Reed clips that Hank Brennan is using, Julie, it is stealing the show because it's so captivating. It's her words. I also just want to make mention of Peg O'Keefe. I know some people want to say, well, Peg O'Keefe and she never liked Karen, or however people want to try to explain it away. What makes Peg O'Keefe, who I've interacted with, who is absolutely the picture of grace and class, how she has handled herself. I remember being on with you at one of the earlier hearings and mentioning that Hank Brennan had developed a very strong rapport with Peg O'Keefe. That can't be faked. That was real. The jurors are not only were they moved by seeing Peg O'Keefe, not only did they watch Karen Reed totally mock her in that manner, which is why Alan Jackson wanted to keep it out, but every day now, Peg O'Keefe is sitting prominently right there, right behind the show, right over the shoulder of Karen Reed, as a reminder to the jurors. And Julie, Peg O'Keefe is going to be in that courtroom, as you know, throughout the entire trial. I think this.
So when you're a victim's member's family, you're asked to attend the trial because so that the John O'Keefe will not be forgotten. You are their voice. You are embodying them. You are their messenger. And it's really important to have the victim's family so the victim is not forgotten in court. So when people were saying, because when they asked to play that clip of Karen Reed mocking Peggy O'Keefe, saying that Peggy O'Keefe leaned across the kitchen aisle and said, "I think he got hit by a car." And she makes this face like, just showing her teeth and scrunching up her nose and mocking Peggy O'Keefe. And they wanted to play it right after, Hank Brennan wanted to play it right after Peggy O'Keefe's very moving testimony. Of course, that's the most powerful moment to play it. The judge said, Alan Jackson objected and said that it's too prejudicial and that it's not meant to impeach Peggy O'Keefe. It's just meant to make the jury hate Karen Reed. But the judge said she would look at it, and then the next morning he was allowed to play it. So there was a period, a pause, and I heard one lawyer say, like, so much of the power was lost. Yeah, some of the power was lost, but Peggy O'Keefe's testimony, I do not believe, is easily forgotten. And the next morning, they would have gotten it. They would have gotten the context of what that was about, that it was a made-up story, and that Karen Reed, just everything that Karen Reed does shows her hatred, contempt for John O'Keefe, his family, and everyone who got her with her crime. You know what I mean? Nailed her and knows her guilt. But mainly the O'Keefe family. So I don't think it was lost on her. So is there a rift in the defense? This is the first time I'd heard of there being a rift in the defense team. Certainly I was playing the clips yesterday of Alan Jackson pushing Karen Reed away, Karen Reed pushing her chair towards Alan Jackson. Thought that was the first I heard of there being a rift in the defense team. Is it true? Is it not true? I don't know. Throwing it out there. What do you guys think? I mean, if she gets convicted of all, I mean, if there's like a miracle, it'll be like a miracle if this happens. If she gets convicted, despite her well-funded, supported by our mainstream media innocence fraud campaign, if she gets convicted of all three charges, including murder 2, I mean, that will be a miracle in Massachusetts, in very blue Massachusetts, where we had a previous murder trial in the same same courthouse, where a guy admitted to killing his wife, wasn't fighting it, and hiding her body with rocks in a pond, strangled her. I mean, they gave him involuntary manslaughter. I think murder 2 is a high bar for the Commonwealth in this state. In another state, not so much. Without an innocence fraud campaign, not so much. It's a ton of evidence against Karen Reed. Let's see how it goes. So it started going back to these ARCCA witnesses. So these are accident reconstructionists. And I just find it hard to believe. How were they hired? How did the federal investigation find them? Were they suggested by David Yannetti and Alan Jackson? But let's go back to early an early hearing in this case. Does anybody remember this? So let me go forward about here. It's about here.
That given the indictments, most of them that deal with witnesses in this case that allegedly have been harassed and intimidated, it is curious that that relationship exists and the nature of that relationship. It's not something that I think I'm entitled to, but the court certainly could delve into that ex parte. It's important because we'll later talk about, in a sanctions motion, a violation, a direct violation of protective orders in this case. And the discovery in this case was provided to Special Attorney in Mr. Kearney's case to make sure that there was a thorough review of all discovery, and much of that was turned over subject to a protective order. And I expect there'll be a similar motion in Mr. Kearney's case. Within 24 hours of the violation in this case, there was a violation of different material.
Okay, Karen Reed is texting and fingering AJ as desperately and insecurely as she did with John. Yeah, I mean, if you go over those text messages, I was reading them this morning that Garino read out loud. I've read them out loud. You can go look back to my episode on Karen Reed and John O'Keefe's text messages. I read them all. But they paint such a clear picture. I was so glad that so many of them were read out loud, and that we have, she's making up. We've seen no evidence that she had a rusty pipe issue, a hot water issue. She's making that up to delay her arrival at the bar and to get a rise out of John, and it worked. I mean, she knew. She'd been with him 2 years. She'd studied him. She knew what would annoy him. I mean, and last year, the real motivation was all Karen Reed's jealousy. Karen Reed's jealousy. This time round, thanks, Manny, we heard about the plumber. And if you haven't heard about the plumber, I mean, who hasn't heard about the plumber yet? But we have seen, I hope that they follow up on it, and we'll hear, is there any information about this plumber in Karen Reed's phone? Yeah, if you don't know what I'm talking about, here's my song. This will fill you in. But she was supposedly had a hot water issue, and John was upset. He told Michael Camerano he was upset because he was a plumber, John O'Keefe, and his father's a plumber. They would have fixed it for free Monday. So things weren't all perfect with them at the bar. And what would have been the first thing that John O'Keefe would have asked Karen Reed when she showed up at the bar? How'd you get on with that plumber? How'd it work out? She's telling John O'Keefe that he had to go to, Richie the plumber had to go to Home Depot. He'll be back tomorrow. But he's there at 7:30 on a, round about 7:30 on a Friday night. She's expecting a plumber? Really? Really? All right, here's my Richie the Plumber song for those that missed it.
Everyone is waiting for me to arrive at the bar. At home in Mansfield, I'm making up a new co-star. His name is Richie the plumber. No hot water, it's a bummer. It's all a figment of my imagination. Call it a lie, I feign rightful indignation. Call the plumber, I got a rusty pipe. Hot water is not working, I'm starting a fight. Sure, it's a lie, but it's a little one. boyfriend under my thumb. John says he and his papa would have fixed it if only this broken pipe in real life existed. Causing pain and suffering is what I do best. Putting my boyfriend's patience through test after test. Richie, my imaginary plumber, is at Home Depot, hoping that story will get a rise out of my boyfriend and his libido. I'll arrive at the bar showing up late, make him angry right out of the gate. He's slow at feeling lovey-dovey, I'm downright twisted and scummy. I'll down many drinks and run him over after it gets late. Scream and cry, it's you, John, who I hate. Leave him to die in a blizzard, inflicting pain, I'm a wizard. Get Jen to call 911, have the whole town pointing fingers when it's over and done.
Okay, back to this hearing. Let's pull it up this way.
Or deprive the defense of an ARCCA expert in this case. But there has to be a minimum requirement of reciprocal discovery and discovery before a party can call a witness. It's not enough to say that the witness is helpful or unhelpful. There has to be full disclosure when calling an expert. It's interesting that the defense's position is that the information is unavailable to them, and that since there's been a voir dire and trial testimony, that should be enough. Well, what the government worries about is that there is other things that...
Where have we heard that before? Somehow that they can't get this information every time they're asked for discovery. The feds have it. We can't get into the federal investigation. Strangely, it's been deleted. We don't have it to hand over, Your Honor. Remember, this was last time before this? It was the same violation last year. We had another voir dire last year. Turns out they were paid $23,925 after they told the jury they weren't paid. Alan Jackson made a big song and dance about, you're not being paid. The Commonwealth could have used you if they liked what you had concluded. It's just the Commonwealth is so biased and thinks Karen Read is guilty, they wouldn't want to use you. When they retained them, they were hired guns for the defense, and they were presented to the jury as unbiased, totally independent witnesses hired by another entity. They weren't allowed to say it was a federal investigation. And then they found out they paid them $23,925, and that they were talking to them as just arrived out of the blue after a period of not talking for a while because they had to take a pause when the feds told them to cool off. They couldn't talk. It's all absurd. The whole thing is absurd. There's many, many communications between them, over 100 text messages. Calls, long calls, like it's wild.
that are relevant, like compensation, promise, reward, inducement, whether there's collaboration between one side or the other and that expert witness that they don't know about, they can't ask about, that there's some type of bias or favoritism that the expert might have towards one side for whatever reason. So if that information is not disclosed, then it is not only an impediment, it creates a position where it is an unfair examination. It's not the ARCCA witnesses that I have the issue with. It's the issue, the fact that I don't have adequate discovery. If the defense is going to be a proponent of those witnesses, they have obligations, Rule 14 obligations for basic discovery. Now, I wasn't at the last trial, but I've read the transcripts. And on June 10, 2024, you asked the defense about ARCCA, and it was represented these experts were hired by the federal government and they provided a report to us pursuant to a TUI request. It was specifically outlined and ruled that they could not prep with us for trial. Could not prep with us for trial. And so Your Honor said, so I am to believe that the defense is calling 3 witnesses that you've never spoken to and putting them on the stand here. And the answer, that's essentially it. We've spoken to them only for purposes of coordinating their testimony and their background. We've not been able to interview them regarding their findings, which are outlined in detail in the reports that both sides have. Your Honor said, see.
So just to give you a little bit of an idea, that the defense turned over records showing 99 texts to Wolfe and 6 texts to Rentschler. Reed's lawyer spent more than 2 hours on the phone with Wolfe across 20 different calls and nearly an hour on the phone with Rentschler over 23 calls. And Hank Brennan said, I find it difficult to accept that these are all for scheduling purposes. Many of those text messages between Reed's attorney, Alan Jackson, and the experts who worked for the firm ARCCA were deleted, Robert Alessi admitted. But Alessi said that the defense had turned over every text message that did exist or that they let exist, and that there was nothing more they were required to turn over despite Brennan's insistence that the prosecutors were still in the dark. We can't be in violation for not turning over something that doesn't exist. It's the quote that, just boggles the mind. We can't be in violation now, right? We're not in violation. Once we purposely got rid of something, we can't be in trouble for it, right? So that Cannoni's now demanding this from ARCCA themselves. So just a little bit more about this.
I don't see that as being the report. I don't see that as being detailed. It leaves a lot of questions as the gatekeeper as to what they can testify. And you have not complied with your Rule 14 obligations. And the defense says, we can't, Your Honor. And Your Honor said, so you can't, but you haven't. So I'm left with that you have not complied.
So where in the transcript is this?
On page 2812 and 2813 of June 10, 2024. Now, having some familiarity with the federal government, it seemed to me, based on my limited experience, there was much more to the story. So I called the federal government and I tried to encourage them to provide full discovery so that the experts could testify. I was resigned to a TUI letter. I've been down that road many times. It's a dark road that never sees the light of day. So I filed the TUI letter, comprehensive TUI letter. And it was delayed. And over a long period of time with requests and deadlines, I finally received a response that was unresponsive. And it was striking that it wasn't noted as unresponsive. Just when I read the materials, and Attorney McLaughlin actually identified them, they didn't respond to our request. So Attorney McLaughlin wrote back, and then we got new materials, just some. But these materials are the very reason why the defense should not be able to.
So this is where he misspoke. These materials came from the defense. They eventually handed over a few scraps to the Commonwealth, but they were hugely telling.
Call witnesses without giving full discovery. Having not been at the last trial and reading the transcripts, I only have a flavor for the last trial. So there is email correspondence between the defense, not only the federal government, but the ARCCA witnesses themselves. A recent request for their appearance pursuant to TUI, which I have no issue with. But if we look back earlier in the relationship, what we see back in March 22nd, 2024, is that there are conversations between the defense, Attorney Jackson, and Daniel Wolfe. who's one of these ARCCA witnesses. Thank you so much for taking the time to get on the phone with me this morning pursuant to our conversation. Please feel free to forward an engagement letter to this email address. I will get that countersigned and return to you forthwith, along with your retainer as required.
Along with the retainer. Along with the retainer. They said a bill just showed up out of the blue. Who's gotten a $23,925 bill? Been like, wow, what's this? This just came out of the blue. Wasn't expecting this. I would say never. I said the people in my audience, never. My father's alibi, much gratitude to you. Oh, much gratitude to you, Roberta and Maestro. Thanks so much, Allison Galvani. This is my father's alibi. Check out her channel. She's trying to get justice for her mother, Nancy Galvani. Was murdered. Hope that's going well, Allison. I hope that we'll be talking about a trial soon in that case. Appreciate it. Back to Hank Brennan.
Commonwealth, as I understand it, was not aware of any promised rewards or inducements or payment. They relied on a reciprocal discovery order of this court for that information. Response: Hi, Alan. Subsequent to our conversation on Wednesday, the U.S. Attorney's Office asked we pause any further conversation until we received additional information from their office regarding how our involvement will move forward. Now, it's not the opinion that troubles me, it's the relationship, and Commonwealth should have an even playing field. Saturday, June 22nd.
Is anyone else focusing in on Alan Jackson and David Yannetti? It's like Hank Brennan is the school teacher scolding them, and they're sitting there. I mean, it's just like the guiltiest body. I mean, I don't think they feel guilt. It's just that they've been exposed, and they don't like that feeling, so they're just sitting there. This is when I wish we had a Alan Jackson, David Yannetti cam so we could see them head on, just watching them from the side.
Daniel Wolfe writes, Alan, I spent some time this morning putting together a brief outline of my qualifications, also attached my D&T list. I obviously won't say what the response is verbatim, but I gave you a general sense of what my response would be. Again, I thought your questioning during the voir dire was fantastic, so please feel free to make whatever changes you feel necessary. Now, this isn't information provided by the defense in reciprocal discovery. This is information provided by the federal government after numerous requests, 2 requests, and an insistent, the best I can, to get as much information as I can. We then are provided an outline of questions and answers for a direct examination. The Commonwealth did not have the luxury to privilege, did not even know that there was an outline that was being disseminated by this totally independent witness who took no side other than that of the truth. What follows from this outline is then the outline with remarks from this independent expert who knows nobody. So we see in the margins in the notes, this fair-minded, objective witness says, so not being able to inspect the vehicle is something that's not uncommon in your line of work. And he writes, absolutely not. And then he comments, not sure if you want to put this somewhere in the direct examination. I have a feeling they, the Commonwealth, are going to argue I didn't personally inspect the vehicle. I had enough information from the material I reviewed, so it wasn't necessary.
Right. So here's ARCCA saying, I think the Commonwealth is going to hone in on the fact that we didn't actually look at the actual vehicle. And here's why I don't need to. And here's how you can cross-examine. You know, they're helping the defense with their case. They're hired guns for the defense. And what made them so effective, and why I think it won't matter if they come in or not, given that the Commonwealth, they haven't done any new testing that the Commonwealth can't head off. But either way, what made them effective, and it still didn't work with the jury. Apparently the jury, members of the jury were smart enough to figure out that they thought someone was paying them and that they were somehow connected to the defense. They didn't believe it. And they had good reason not to, because when they were cross-examined, they said, we didn't need any more information. That wouldn't have changed our opinion at all. The fact that the information was essentially handpicked by the defense, and we can watch when, I think it's Wolfe is asked on cross. I believe it's Wolfe. It may be Rentschler. I was just watching it this morning, so forgive me for not remembering exactly. But he's asked how did he get, I think it's Wolfe, how did he get the information? And he's like, it was essentially handed over to us by the people who hired us, meaning the feds. I think it was. I mean, it's very awkward. You get the feeling he's lying, and you get the feeling that everything that they used in their tests was handpicked by the defense. And I also say that because listen to these communications between the defense and ARCCA. And so a free Karen reader will say, actually, I'll get to it. I'll wait till I get to it. I won't jump on it ahead of time. We'll get to it.
Need to show the jury it doesn't matter in this case.
What's the date of that?
It's not dated. It's not dated. The TUI request is a recent February response, but they send random documents. There's no real accounting. Now, I'm not saying that undermines the conclusions of ARCCA, I'm not saying they're not qualified witnesses, but it certainly shows some bias. I've turned over a lot less in this case than this. Another comment. Would be fair to say because you had a lot of nighttime visibility work, your cases frequently involve pedestrians. Yes, unfortunately, there is a direct correlation between the time of day and pedestrian fatalities. Statistically speaking, most pedestrian fatalities occur during the evening and night hours. That would have been nice to have. So my specialty in the area of lighting and human factors results in a lot of my cases involving pedestrians.
So when he says that would have been nice to have, the free Karen readers say, well, they did testify to that at trial. You can't head off that testimony at trial, not at the voir dire, at trial. You can't head off that testimony.
Pretty important stuff in this case. And then he comments, if you don't want me to say this, that's fine. That's fine. Shh. Don't tell them. Have you qualified as an expert in court before? Yes. I realized my testimony, I said it 20 times when you asked how many I've been qualified. I misinterpreted the question. My fault. 11 trials, 7 depositions. Not sure if you want me to.
That is such a common question. How do you misinterpret that question? I strangely overstated in the voir dire how many trials that I've testified into. I strangely perjured myself, committed perjury in that. Don't know if you want me to straighten that out. No, we just won't ask this next time. We won't ask at trial, so no one will notice the discrepancy. Hank Brennan goes on to say, I don't know if it was ever ironed out. I think you get the picture. Moving on. Also, okay, moving on. Let's get into the whole history of this. And I don't want to read too much from it. I do want to share some of it with you. And so this is going to go out for those that are unfamiliar with innocence fraud campaigns. This is going to branch into another case. And I'm just going to explore that other case a little bit. But the reason I'm doing it is to try to really educate you on how innocence fraud cases work. There's a very good documentary called The Murder in the Park that shows you a lot of behind the scenes stuff where people are being offered book money, movie money for their testimony, or being pressured to change their testimony years after conviction. This is usually when we're talking about innocence fraud. It's about 14 years after a conviction. And what we're seeing in America now is all these cases, what they're trying to do is ideologically, this movement wants to make our sentences closer to Europe. So they want to get rid of life without parole for even the most heinous crimes. Senator Fetterman is working on that in Pennsylvania. And they want to reduce like our most heinous crimes to like a 20, 30-year max. So they're undoing people who've been in for 27, from the 20 to 30-year period. One, witnesses have died, memories have faded. There's all sorts of advantages trying to get people out. And then when they get out and claim they're exonerated, they can sue for wrongful conviction. And that's when they can bring in the big money. When someone's been in prison for 20, 30 years and they can claim innocence. It's not anywhere close to true. These people are guilty as hell. But lawyers are getting mega bucks in civil suit money, suing the police, suing the state for wrongful conviction. So this is what we talk about. So there's some background in wrongful convictions in this ARCCA thing. So that is why I can just hear my audience go, what does this have to do with ARCCA? It has a lot to do with ARCCA. It has to do with fraud, and you'll see connections to innocence fraud. One innocence fraud case, so often of the time, one person from one innocence fraud case will weave their way in and out of other innocence fraud cases. So Killer Karen retrial, ARCCA and federal investigation timeline included innocence fraudsters Daniel Wolfe and Andrew Rentschler. Those are the ARCCA witnesses. Witness intimidation, arrests, extrajudicial statements, violations, sanctions, gag order, and transcripts. So there is Innocence Fraud Watch. This is her blog. The link is in the description of this episode. There is candor in criminal advocacy, trial publicity, criminal procedure, Rule 32, 48, misconduct rule. You can't trial publicity rule. So do you think that Alan Jackson have violated this rule? A lawyer shall not knowingly make a false statement of fact or law to a tribunal or fail to correct a false statement of material fact or law previously made by the tribunal by the lawyer. A lawyer who has participated or in the investigation or litigation of a matter shall not make an extrajudicial statement that the lawyer knows or reasonably should know will be disseminated by means of public communication and will have a substantial likelihood of materially prejudicing an adjunctive proceeding in the matter. So they shouldn't be making any statements that would prejudice the jury. Do you think Alan Jackson has done that? I do. Do you think Yannetti has done that? I do. Alan Jackson the most. Notwithstanding paragraph, a lawyer may state a lawyer may make a statement that a reasonable lawyer would believe is required to protect a client. See, there's the loophole from the substantial undue prejudicial effect of recent trial publicity. But every trial publicity has been pro Karen Reed. Not initiated by the lawyer or the lawyer's client. They've initiated all of this press. A statement made pursuant to this paragraph shall be limited to such information and is necessary to mitigate misconduct. They violate or attempt to violate the rules of professional conduct, like having a relationship with your client. Commit a criminal act that reflects adversely on the lawyer's honesty, trustworthy, or fitness as a lawyer. Engage in conduct involving dishonesty, fraud, deceit, or misrepresentation. I would say Yannetti and Jackson done that. Engage in conduct that is prejudicial to the administration of law. It goes on. Okay. In January 2019, David Yannetti agreed to be on Rachel Rollins' transition team. So there's a letter. Hello and happy email, excuse me. Hello and happy new year. I hope that you're all having a wonderful January. I wanted to personally thank you for agreeing to be on the transition team and for your help in conducting candidate interviews during a busy holiday season. And there's Rachel's name. Okay. And she was involved. So this is so in September 20th, the victims, Roosevelt Tony Price and Ronald Dallas Price, were murdered in 1993. Boston College Innocence Program client Ronnie Qualls was exonerated, quote unquote, meaning they overturned his conviction. They consider that an exoneration. September 1st, after Suffolk County District Attorney Rachel Rollins filed a nolle pro se, formally dismissing all charges pending against him in connection with a 1992 double homicide in Boston, Roxbury neighborhood. The path to Quayle's release was a complicated one. He was convicted of first-degree murder in the death of Roosevelt Tony Price and his brother Roland Dallas Price in 1993, but his convictions were reversed by the Supreme Judicial Court in 1997. He was convicted in the 1998 retrial. So this guy is so guilty, he was convicted twice. Okay, give you and sentenced to 2 consecutive life without parole sentences, which the Supreme Court affirmed. So they affirmed his guilt in 2003. The trial court denied Qualls' 2004 pro se motion for post-conviction relief, and the United States District Court denied his federal habeas corpus petition. So he tried to successfully appeal 2006 and 2004. And on Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025, former double convicted murderer Ronnie Qualls slammed his vehicle into the Ashmont Nursery School in Dorchester, causing significant damage to the building. A January 24th, 2025 Boston Herald story headed Boston man accused of crashing vehicle into Dorchester Nursery facing drug and gun charges. So the same guy who was got out by Rachel Rollins, right? He reoffended in January of this year, running his car into a nursery school, caught with guns and substances, tried to flee from the police. When police arrested him, they found 4 plastic bags in Qualls' jacket, believed to be Pepsi, I'll say, and the kind of rock Pepsi. Also, a records check revealed that Qualls did not have a valid driver's license. Qualls was placed under arrest and expected to be arraigned. And this is also when he was suing for wrongful conviction. He was in the process of suing and trying to get his civil suit money. Unlawful possession of firearm, unlawful possession of a loaded firearm, unlawful possession of ammunition. Sometime in late August 2022, David Yannetti and Karen Reed initiated a federal investigation after falsely accusing Brian Albert, a Boston police officer and the homeowner of 34 Fairview Road, where Karen Reed left John O'Keefe after reversing into him with her SUV, and Michael Proctor, the state trooper who helped lead the investigation into Karen Reed, of having a close personal and intimate relationship. During a April 16, 2025 motions hearing, Karen Reed via Alan Jackson told the court David Yannetti received a subpoena on September 1st, 2022 for a file on the case. There is no longer any federal investigation into the into John O'Keefe's death or any related matters. It is closed. It is over, said Hank Brennan. On April 2023, blogger Aidan Carney began posting articles to his website and social media accounts where he adopted the defense arguments as true and makes personal attacks on the civilian witnesses and their family members and their friends. During Karen Reed's May 3rd, 2023 hearing, referring to Aidan Turner Boy Carney's blogs, Alan Jackson stated in an open court in front of the TV cameras, "It has been reported that the federal authorities have now gotten involved in the circumstances surrounding the case and have impaneled a federal grand jury, to investigate some of these circumstances." A letter on May 9th from Lynn Bayland at the Norfolk District Attorney's Office was sent to U.S. Assistant Attorney Josh Levy. A letter, and it says, "I write to you based upon our following conversation regarding the issuance of a federal grand jury subpoena to at least 2 witnesses to the Commonwealth's investigation into the death of John O'Keefe. As you know, indictments have issued in Norfolk Superior Court and the prosecution is ongoing. As a prosecuting agency, the Norfolk District Attorney's Office has the constitutional duty to provide the defendant with exculpatory evidence. The obligation in Massachusetts to provide exculpatory information pursuant to Brady versus Maryland, and it means not only. Additionally, the office has constitutional state obligations to provide exculpatory information. Okay. A letter dated May 18th from Michael Morrissey's office on the Norfolk District Attorney's Office was sent to the professional responsibility at the U.S. Department of Justice as below. Dear Sir or Madam, I write to formally request that an ongoing investigation be conducted by the U.S. Attorneys. I write to formally request that an ongoing investigation being conducted by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Massachusetts be examined by the Office of Professional Responsibility. So here is the DA saying, look, this is so beyond the call that that they have a federal investigation into what would be in other circumstances a normal hit and run. Then I'm asking that you investigate the investigation. And bring in the Office of Professional Responsibility. And should the investigation continue, that it be transferred to another office without history of conflicts, bias, and abuse of prosecutorial discretion as outlined below. The Norfolk District Attorney's Office has undertaken an extensive investigation into the facts and the circumstances of the death of John O'Keefe in Canton, Mass. On January 29, 2022. The facts and evidence gathered include more than 40 individuals testifying before the Norfolk County Grand Jury, led to the second-degree murder indictment of Karen Reed. Reed was the operator of the vehicle that the evidence demonstrates struck her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. O'Keefe was then left to die in the snow on the side of Fairview Road, Canton, during the evening of January 29, 2022. The case has been systematically making its way through Norfolk Superior Court, with ongoing discovery still active and open, including motions under advisement and motions not yet heard. Subsequently, received subpoenas to appear before a federal grand jury. Shortly after those notifications to the Norfolk District Attorney's Office, Josh Levy, first assistant in the Boston office of the United States Attorney's Office contacted Norfolk First Assistant District Attorney Lynn Bayland to suggest that they were conducting an investigation that may involve a number of witnesses in the Commonwealth versus Reed murder case. At that time, Attorney Bayland expressed some concern about both the jurisdiction and the timing of any actions being taken by the United States office, as they could imprudently impact the ongoing murder prosecution of Karen Reed. Based on the collective experience of several of my colleagues, Massachusetts District Attorney and a former federal prosecutor, it appears to be unprecedented for the federal government to step in to the middle of an ongoing state murder prosecution prompted only by inflammatory and ethically dubious defense strategy. Let me say that again for those in the back. Let me read it again for those in the back, okay? At that time, Attorney Bedland expressed some concerns about both the jurisdiction and the timing of any actions being taken by the United States Attorney's Office. Okay. It appears to be unprecedented by the federal government to step into the middle of an ongoing state murder prosecution prompted only by inflammatory and ethically dubious defense strategy. Like, hey, this was prompted only by these creepy criminal defense attorneys. I'm going to take a break. We'll get back. More on Morrissey's letter about the federal investigation. Going to get into it. Hey, Manny says defense is used to cheating and rather save their careers than Karen. More cheating, more scrutiny. They know they lost because their only dirt has come to light, abandoning cheating to save themselves. I don't know if they've abandoned cheating. They seem to be continuing to try to cheat. There's been a lot of cheating and really ethically dubious, ethically creepy stuff going on in this case. More on it when we return. Don't go anywhere.
Mic check, Roberta strides through the static haze. True crime Gotham where the shadows play their plays. Fraudsters fold when a spotlight beams. Fact focused queen busting propaganda schemes. Glass shatter lies echoes through the streets. Standing for victims, giving voice their beats. NYC Post, truth sharp as night. Roberta exposing she's the anti-fraud light. Hard cash warrior, dissecting state and defense. Twisted innocence, claims breaking pretense. Gotham's truth seeker cuts clean with the blade. Facts in the forefront, no justice gets swayed. Cold facts drip heavy, real talk unfurls. Cracking cases open like oysters with pearls. Innocence gimmicks crumble to dust in the wind. For victims, her creed, justice till the end. Headphones blazing, she drops heavy artillery. Narratives twisted, meet blunt object civility. Roberta got receipts that unravel the ploy, exposing the lies these fraudsters deploy. Glass shatters lies, echoes through the streets. Standing for victims, giving voice their beats. NYC Post, truth sharp as night. Roberta exposing she's the anti-fraud light.
Okay, we are back to Michael Morrissey's letter about what he considers a gross violation of ethics. And it was done as a defense strategy for Karen Reed, this federal investigation. In the conversation with First Assistant Norfolk District Attorney Lynn Bayland, Assistant United States Attorney Josh Levy declined to identify what jurisdiction the federal government had in this murder case, in what appears to be a highly unusual and possibly abusive exercise of power. Attorney Levy indicated that the U.S. Attorney's Office was still proceeding ahead with an investigation that would involve individuals who were active participants in events and or witnesses in the state case. Attorney Bayland reminded a Josh Levy, who works for the Attorney General's office, that any statements and or testimony taken in such an investigation that pertain to any witnesses in the ongoing state's murder trial that may create an ongoing obligation for state prosecutors to provide defense with access. See, that was also, it was a fishing expedition too. That's how they got access to a lot of information they wouldn't normally have gotten. Access to all information, including grand jury statements, to provide defense with access to all information and statements gathered or recorded as a result of the federal investigation. The United States Attorney's Office offered the opinion that you can't turn over information that you don't have. Oh, where did we hear that before? You can't turn over information that you don't have. This position, Alessi, anyone? This position leaves state authorities potentially unable to meet the constitutional mandate expressed in Brady versus Maryland and corresponding Massachusetts state rules. Since that call concluded, we have confirmed that witnesses have testified before the grand jury. Rule 6 of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure allows that under certain compelling circumstances, information may be provided to all counsel, including those not before the federal grand jury. Recent court filings and statement by defense counsel in the Reed matter suggest that defense attorneys were the source of the initial complaint and allegations, prompting this action by the U.S. Attorney's Office. See Exhibit C. Reed's defense counsel's recent court filings out of thin air and apparently purposely misstatement of fact, unsupported claims of a cover-up by investigators and witnesses, including municipal, state, and federal law enforcement. As shown in attached documents, many or all of these unsupported allegations can be vetted and reviewed by the judges of Massachusetts Superior Court during the discovery and motion sessions or available appellate review. I'm unaware and strongly doubt any prosecutor or state police misconduct in Commonwealth Reed. The only allegations to that effect have been unsupported news claims or defense filings that have not even been answered. At the time, Levy confirmed the existence of a federal grand jury. It raises the question why the apparatus of the Department of Justice would intervene, even as such issues are still being assessed by the Justice of Massachusetts Superior Court without some additional impetus on the part of the United States Attorney's Office. Without dismissing the important role of the Department of Justice in investigating allegations of police misconduct and federal violations of police misconduct, mean tweets, mean tweets. We bring to your attention what appears to be, they're talking about, they're alleging that the police framed Karen Read, which there's never been any evidence of. We bring to your attention what appears to be additional concerns concerning motive, conflict of appearance of conflict, and potential bias by the United States Office for Massachusetts, and explain these unprecedented proceedings. So it goes on and on. Weaponizing the United States Attorney's Office to conduct an unprecedented intervention into an open state murder case appears to raise the same concerns outlined in the Department of Justice report. So wait, let me go back. I submit that the pattern of using the U.S. Attorney's U.S. Attorney's Office for personal purposes established in Report 23071, coupled with the obvious conflict of Chow, made it impossible to conclude that a fair evaluation of the unprecedented Read intervention can be conducted by any party within the Massachusetts office. It's impossible to determine how far the tentacles of bias have spread out from the chief of the relevant unit and the titular head of the office. I formally request that an impartial federal office official unaffiliated with the U.S. Attorney's Office for Massachusetts review and investigate the steps and actions that have been taken by the current members of the Massachusetts office. Exploring this apparent bias and whether it predisposed them to abuse their prosecutorial discretion in this matter. It is in the unlikely case that an impartial review finds that the Department of Justice investigation into Karen Read is appropriate, even before the issues at hand have been vetted out by the Norfolk Superior Court judge hearing the case. I request that the investigation be reassigned from parties and clearly stated and documented bias against the members of the Norfolk District Attorney's Office to attorneys entirely outside the office of the District United States Attorney's Office for. So Rachel Rawlings resigned in 2023 as U.S. Attorney for damning allegations of abuse of authority. So Rachel Rawlings resigns as U.S. Attorney after her damning allegations of abuse of authority. On the heels of an investigative report, Rachel Rawlings officially resigned from her post as U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts on Friday in a brief resignation letter. So she was the one involved in overturning the conviction of Quayles, who just reoffended and was reported as a great exoneration. When was this? So we can, I just want you to be skeptical if you see news reports like this one. Use your skepticism if you see news reports like this.
Now at 5, exonerated a man who was locked up for 27 years for a double murder he did.
So they don't say, and they say that he didn't commit. So, they packed it into they're brainwashing you within the first 4 minutes. Not that he got his conviction overturned after being convicted twice, then have his convictions affirmed by higher courts multiple times. Should raise your skepticism when you see news reports like this.
Not commit is now free and in the clear. In March, Ronnie Qualls was released from prison after new DNA evidence revealed he was wrongfully convicted for the 1992 crime in Roxbury.
And this week, the final step, the Suffolk County DA dismissed all of the charges against him. Qualls maintained his innocence as he served out his life sentence, but his appeals, they went nowhere until 3 years ago, when the Boston College Innocence program took up his case.
So they did some kind of DNA testing. And this is how the Innocence Project was born, from the O.J. Simpson case, when they realized that nobody really knew anything about DNA and made assumptions that DNA should be found everywhere and should be on everything, and that any DNA found is connected to the crime. And they could bamboozle the courts with DNA, and they could bamboozle the public with DNA. So that was all born from the O.J. Simpson case, which Barry Schecht was a lawyer, and he co-founded the Innocence Project with Barry Neufeld.
The program helped get DNA testing, which proved Qualls was innocent. He said today, without
So this is the work of Rachel Rollins.
them, he would never have walked.
I mean, she basically just threw away the convictions. 2 convictions of her office, just threw them away.
They're amazing people. They'll forever be a part of me. Because they.
So this guy was just found with guns, substances, and tried to evade police capture as he ran his car into a nursery school. Luckily, no one was hurt, but the structure of the building was intensely damaged. So that just will give you a little idea there. What Rachel Rollins was involved in. Alan Jackson made extrajudicial statements following the May 24, 2023 hearing on the steps of the Norfolk Superior Court in Denham. And we can listen to Alan Jackson here, shall we?
This is not a scam. All Americans can apply for the 2024 $15,000 debt relief program.
The biggest energy killer for older men is low testosterone. Testosterone is a natural chemical that can...
I don't know how many of you were in there, but what just happened in that courtroom was a miscarriage. The Commonwealth is desperate not to get the facts out in front of the public. They're desperate not to have witnesses testify. They're desperate not to have witnesses have to answer questions. And it's because they don't have any facts to support their theory of the case. They're desperate not to have the hearing tomorrow, which is why they wanted it today, in order to basically sandbag everybody so that the press, thank God somebody was here to cover it, that the press and the public didn't see what happened. This was absolutely a travesty, and the Commonwealth has been at this, and they've constantly tried to have their foot on Karen Read's throat from the beginning. It's becoming so obvious and so transparent, and it's not going to work. I can tell you this, it's not going to work. We're going to continue at this over and over and over. I hope to God that the judge sees her way clear to grant the Rule 17 motion. I think it's very obviously it's relevant. It's material evidence that we need, that Karen Read is entitled to, constitutionally entitled to, and hopefully the court sees it that way. But the Commonwealth's conduct in springing witnesses on us at the last minute, coming into court, citing those witnesses, knowing that I was on an airplane when I got the report from this new witness that they produced this morning. Isn't that convenient? At some point, you start asking yourself, is it incompetence? And then at some point, it becomes complicity. And I think that's where we're at with the Commonwealth right now. It's just ridiculous. Do you have anything to do about? We're going to consider that. We're going to consider filing. What we're going to consider our options. We need to reconnoiter a little bit and talk about it. David and I are going to have that conversation along with the rest of our team, and Karen's going to have input on it as well. But look, there are certainly avenues that are available to us if we decide to go down that road.
Is that going to negatively impact your third-party theory going forward?
No. The third-party, look, it's not. The third-party culpability facts are not just a theory. They're facts. The facts that the Commonwealth can't get away from. They're going to come out now, or they're going to come out at trial. Our hope was to have these so that it doesn't just happen. But ultimately, it doesn't affect our third-party culpability facts, because the facts don't change. That's the beauty of a case like this. We don't have to run from the facts. How many of you folks have seen the defense going after the facts the way we are, and the Commonwealth, conversely, hiding from those facts? Rarely happens that way. There's something to that.
Who's frustrating you the most? Is it the judge? Is it the district attorney, prosecutors? Who are you upset about?
Well, it's the process. The process that Karen Read is having to suffer through right now is frustrating, because she should be exonerated. What the Commonwealth should do is walk into the courtroom and say, you know what, we got it wrong. Mea culpa, we got it wrong. And we're going to go out and find the actual people who did this. That's what they should be doing. That's my frustration.
So is this a cover-up? And if so, who's leading the cover-up?
Your guess is as good as mine. That's what we're trying to figure out. That's exactly what we're trying to figure out.
Who do you think it is?
Well, certainly the Massachusetts State Police is involved. There are people that were in that house that are involved. Brian Albert is involved. Jennifer McCabe is involved. The rest of the folks that were in that house, there's some level of involvement by every one of them. every single one. And until we're not going to rest until we get to the bottom of exactly who's behind this cover-up.
I'd love to see Alan Jackson sued for these comments if Karen Reed gets convicted. I mean, you just, and also, you really shouldn't be making these comments on the steps. I mean, it's just poisoning the jury pool and interfering with his client's right to due process. This is something that Adam Lally brought up in his filings, that Karen Reed is not being well represented. Her lawyers are acting so criminally, they're not representing her well. And he doesn't want to see her appeal on inefficient assistance of counsel once it brought to the court's attention. Again, she was asked after these ARCCA violations. Your lawyers are not acting, they're acting like criminals. They're not acting like lawyers. Do you want to keep them? Oh, yes, I want to keep my criminal lawyers. And the joke of it is that if she should get convicted by a miracle, nothing to do with Hank Brennan's, what I think is a superb performance. It's just that these innocence fraud campaigns are so powerful, and nothing to do with the overwhelming evidence against her. By miracle, she does get convicted. The joke of it is that she will appeal on ineffective assistance of counsel.
Because
anyway, after she's been warned multiple times.
Not only Karen Reed deserves this, John O'Keefe deserves this, and has deserved this from moment one. And that's why we're not going to rest.
Can you update us on the dog?
The court obviously ruled in our favor as well. She should have on the dog record information. The process now is that the court actually sends the summons to the record holders. We're waiting for that to happen. As soon as the court sends that summons, then we will get the record.
Do you know where the dog is?
We don't yet. That's why we're seeking the records. Yeah, we have some suspicions, but
Do
we
you have
don't know.
something you want to say?
No, Karen's not going to talk right now. Thank you.
She just said something. I think she might have something she wants to say.
Said it feels we're the only ones fighting for the truth of what happened to John O'Keefe. And me and my family and my attorneys and my team have marshaled every resource to get to the truth. It just feels like no one else wants it.
And Karen, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
And no, she didn't do it. No, she didn't do it. This is an innocent woman. She didn't do it.
I tried to save his life. I tried to save his life at 6 a.m. I was covered in his blood. I was the only one trying to save his life.
Why do you admit to it?
She didn't admit to it. She didn't admit to anything close to that. Nothing close to that. And you should know that.
That was like 3 or 4 times.
No, she didn't.
That's not true.
She asked a question. She asked a question, which is very different. She didn't admit to anything.
Everyone's lying.
Dougal, John O'Keefe's friend, advocating so beautifully for him. I love it.
When it comes to
You're
children,
like,
we're
end
what they
of-
call experts.
Hold on. They're like end of press conference. End of press conference. End of press conference. Get Karen to stop. She's not going to talk. Well, it looks like she wants to talk. The boy wishes she wouldn't have spoken, because it's my favorite. It's my favorite. One of my favorite Karen Reed clip to play. We know who did it. We all know who did it. After Alan Jackson said we don't know who did it, but here's who did it. Jen McCabe, Brian Albert, named all these people. I mean, that is criminal with no evidence. You can't do that. Evidence doesn't support what you're saying, Alan Jackson. A letter dated June 1st to Michael Morrissey at the Norfolk District Attorney's Office was sent from Jeffrey Ragsdale, the U.S. Department of Justice, below. Michael Morrissey, the Office of Professional Responsibility, received your May 18th letter requesting that an OPR investigative investigate the decision by the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Massachusetts to subpoena individuals who are witnesses in your pending state prosecution to testify before the grand jury in the ongoing federal investigation. You stated that the USAO's investigation is possibly abusive, exercise of power, and likely based only on defendant Karen Reed's specious claims of witness and police misconduct. In addition, in an investigation of the USAO's investigative decision, you requested that OPR transfer the USAO's pending investigation to another office without a history of conflict, bias, and abuse of prosecutorial discretion. OPR has jurisdiction to investigate allegations of misconduct involving Department of Justice attorneys that relate to the exercise of their authority to investigate, litigate, or provide legal advice, as well as allegations of misconduct by law enforcement personnel that are related to allegations of attorney misconduct within the jurisdiction of OPR. However, it is the policy of this office to refrain from investigating such issues or allegations if an active investigation is ongoing or litigation is pending. So my question is, why can't they investigate now? The federal investigation is over. Why can't the Office of Professional Responsibility investigate this federal investigation that was started by Karen Reed and her lawyers? So that was Jeffrey Ragsdale. He goes, with regard to your request that another office be assigned to your pending grand jury investigation, a matter outside of OPR's jurisdiction, OPR forwarded your complaint to the Executive Office for United States Attorney for whatever action it deems appropriate. So P.S. David Yannetti's too powerful. Josh Levy's too powerful. We're just going to stay out of it. That's what I get from that. We're going to let it happen, as is Massachusetts' way. It's the Wild West. I mean, you noticed here? Gag order request. On June 9th, 2023, the Commonwealth filed a motion to prohibit extrajudicial statements of counsel in compliance with Massachusetts Rule of Professional Conduct. A trial judge has an affirmative constitutional duty to minimize the effects of prejudicial pretrial publicity. Right. This is like Cannoni should have had this gag order years ago. It's always too little too late with her. Notably, the danger of publicity concerning pretrial hearing is particularly acute because it may be difficult to measure with any degree of certainty the effects of such publicity on the fairness of the trial, and unrestrained extrajudicial statements could influence public opinion, inform potential jurors of information that is factually incorrect, of wholly admissible at trial. A letter dated June 12, 2023 was sent from acting U.S. Attorney Josh Levy, who's no longer in the U.S. Attorney's Office, to Lynn Beland at the Norfolk District Attorney's Office. Thank you for your letter dated May 9th. My apologies for the delay in responding, but I've been tied up with the transition issues. We understand your office has important discovery obligations in any criminal prosecution. At this juncture, we have no issue with you advising defense counsel about the contact we have had with your office and the information we have shared if you determine such a disclosure is warranted under Mass R. Crim 14. We are mindful of the important concerns raised in your letter and will be back in touch with you as circumstance dictates. What is that? That's like a non-reply. That's just word. That's like a nothing. There's nothing in that letter. July 2023, Gretchen Voss from Boston Magazine met with Karen Reed and her lawyers, Alan Jackson, at the Omni Seaport Hotel in Boston to carry out an interview. And Judge Cannoni says, this is a footnote in her filing. She said, during the Voss interview, The defendant, along with Attorney Jackson seated at her side, told the reporter, so Alan Jackson told Gretchen Voss about witness testimony from the defendant's sealed grand jury proceedings. Specifically, while discussing Voss's recent visit to the Waterfall Bar and Grill. Someone said this in the chat. They said I was wrong that Alan Jackson did not give Gretchen Voss sealed material. It was sealed. It was sealed. Sealed. Attorney Jackson, seated at her side, told the reporter about witness testimony from the defendant's sealed grand jury proceedings, specifically while discussing Voss's recent visit to the Waterfall Bar and Grill. The defendant stated that the bartender that works there had testified before the grand jury. After further conversation, the defendant then told Voss the substance of the witness's testimony before the grand jury. The requirement that grand jury proceedings remain secret is deeply rooted in the common law of the Commonwealth in order to protect the process from extraneous influences, protect individuals from notoriety and disgrace, protect witnesses from intimidation and subordination, and encourage the free and full disclosure of information concerning commission of a crime. Although Attorney Jackson did not himself disclose information about the grand jury proceedings to the reporter, he had two opportunities to intervene to prevent his client from disclosing such information. Instead, he sat idly by while his client disclosed to a reporter the testimony given in the grand jury proceedings. Additionally, during the interview with both Voss and Fox 25 News, Attorney Jackson disparaged witnesses in the matter. In the Voss interview, he specifically referred to two witnesses as liars. In the subsequent Fox 25 interview, Attorney Jackson claimed that although individuals involved in the case know what really happened, they are not talking, and witnesses in the Albert home the night of the January 28th had obtained lawyers for quote-unquote self-preservation, which implies that they are not being truthful in their statements to law enforcement about what occurred. And, that was not in the footnote. I'm sorry, this is in the footnote. That was in the body of her motion. My apologies. In Judge Cannoni's footnote of her memorandum decision, the court also notes that Attorney Jackson had a conversation with Voss at the Omni Seaport Hotel, during which he revealed information that had been turned over by the Commonwealth in discovery and had not yet been made public. In that discussion, Attorney Jackson acknowledged to the reporter that he was not yet permitted to disclose the information he had received in discovery, and told her she would not publicly disseminate the information until it was put into a court motion. Attorney Jackson then proposed a way to make the information public in an unrelated court hearing, so the reporter could put it in her article before publication. So here he is, leaking out evidence in the case via an unrelated court hearing. Can't get it out, but here's where you shouldn't have. But I'll leak it in a motion and argue it in a court hearing that's unrelated, just to get it out, so that by the time I talk about it, you'll have your article ready to go. Just 9 days after meeting with Karen Reed and Alan Jackson, Gretchen Voss attended the Rolling Rally on July 22nd, 2023, organized by Aidan Turtleboy Carney. And the gag order decision. So Judge Cannoni denied a gag order in July 31st, 2023. She disagreed. I mean, it's terrible decisions, like the worst judging in this case. Letter dated August 3rd, 2023 was sent by Jay Macklin from the U.S. Department of Justice to Lynn Belland, the Norfolk District Attorney's Office. This responds to your June 21st, 2023 letter concerning your request for a recusal of the United States Attorney's Office of the District of Massachusetts for the pending date of criminal matter Commonwealth versus Reed. As you indicate, the Department of Justice Office of Professional Responsibility informed you they had referred your letter to my office for whatever action I deemed appropriate. Consistent with the terms of the referral from OPR, I contacted Acting United States Attorney Josh Levy. Based on my understanding from the discussion with USA Levy, his office has a very different opinion of the circumstances in this case than as presented in Mr. Morrissey's letter. Well, Mr. Morrissey was correct. Maybe get both sides and make an opinion. I guess he did. He took Josh Levy's side, in which his investigation, Levy's investigation, came up with nothing. I wonder how Jay Macklin feels now about it. At this time, we see no basis for a recusal in this investigation. Thank you for your contact information. What a bunch of creepazoids. 8th of August, 2023, Aiden Turtle Boy Carney texted Karen Reed, "Do you have the memo? Town employees were emailed about speaking to you reporters. Alan wants to blast it." The below video clip is from Aiden Carney's YouTube Live, headed Impromptu Live. Karen Reed's parents go on Boston 25 News and new bombshell information, in which he bragged about material he was not supposed to have in the Karen Reed case due to it being sealed.
I also have, by the way, grand jury testimony from Brian Albert himself in April of 2022.
I think that's pretty clear. Aiden Turtleboy Carney made the following post on X here just over a month after Karen Reed had shared grand jury testimony with Gretchen Voss. Colin Albert was visited by 2 FBI agents in his Bridgewater State dorm room and gave a subpoena to testify in front of a grand jury. On April 10th, he was also pulled over driving the exact same make, model, and color vehicle that Lucky Loughran saw parked in front of 34 Fairview. In October 2023, President Biden names 40th round of judicial nominees and announces nominees for U.S. Attorney, U.S. Marshal, and U.S. Sentencing Commission. A letter dated October 12, 2023 was sent to Lynn Belland from the Norfolk District Attorney's Office to Acting Assistant U.S. Attorney Josh Levy is below. This is to follow up on our previous communication. On September 15th, the Norfolk Superior Court set a trial date of March 12th, 2024 in the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed on the indictments for second-degree murder, manslaughter while operating under the influence, and leaving the scene of personal injury and death. Under the Massachusetts Rule of Criminal Procedure, mandatory discovery includes items and information within the Commonwealth's possession, custody, or control relevant to the case, including statements by the defendant Karen Reed, statements of persons who testified before a grand jury, and grand jury minutes. So this all handed over the grand jury things to Karen Reed. And Aiden Carney was arrested on the foot of the driveway of his former house in Holden on charges of intimidating witnesses. On the 1st of November, Ted Daniel of WFXT Boston 25 News submitted a public records request with the Norfolk District Attorney's Office asking for any correspondence between any of the NDAO and the Department of Justice. A letter was sent from Michael Morrissey of the Norfolk District Attorney's Office to Special Agent Jody Cohn of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So they're writing the FBI now. It was a pleasure to meet with you at the State House of the Governor's press conference on hate crime enforcement. I want to again extend my welcome and best wishes in your role as Boston Special Agent in charge and look forward to working with you in the future. I also wanted to renew this office's offer for your agents to speak to the state police who were involved in the John O'Keefe Canton murder investigation. Oh, it sounds like a real cover-up. Michael Morrissey inviting in the FBI. Oh my gosh. to talk to the FBI, to the acting U.S. Attorney's Office in a recent phone conversation. If you would like to have your investigators talk to the state police, they can contact Lieutenant Brian Tully at blah, 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 Michael Morrissey. Text message communications from Ado and Carney to Lindsay Gittani about the feds, Josh Levy, in a conference call. He says they requested a conference call over the weekend. Josh Levy himself asking questions like, is there any chance the trial date could be delayed? Only one reason to do that. Asking for all communications with the DA's office, asking for Jen McCabe's cell phone records be sent to them as soon as they get them. Keep in mind, feds likely have Jen's phone records already, so they may want to see them because they suspect whoever hands them over to the defense will delete things that won't match up with their records. Curiously, is that what Karen Read did? Did she delete things before handing them over? Why does he think that Jen McCabe would delete things? Is it because Karen Read deleted things from her phone? Just a question. The mere fact that they are the ones seeking out Karen's lawyers tells you that this is far from over and they want more info for this case. Levy asked them, if you are contacted by the media in the next coming days or weeks, we would appreciate it if you did not mention us working together. So meaning Josh Levy working with Karen Read and her lawyers. Why would he ask that unless he knew something was going to happen and they were contacted for comment on it? A letter was sent from Menza Arthur, supervisor of records, to Brandon Hunt at the Norfolk District Attorney's Office regarding Ted Daniels. On November 1st, 2023, Mr. Daniels requested any letters, emails, or other correspondence between DA Morrissey or any of the members of his staff had sent the Department of Justice entity mentioning identifying individuals or similar versions of those names. On November 14th, the office responded and identified a single responsive record. This office withheld the record pursuant to exceptions, blah, blah, blah. So they gave him one record and withheld the rest. Norfolk DA says he's unconcerned by the federal interest in Karen Read case. Aidan Carney went to his local police station on December 26, 2023 to hand himself in following a bolo where he was subsequently rearrested. He was arraigned on December 27th on new charges of witness intimidation and assault and battery relative to the alleged incident between him and Lindsay Gittani, which occurred on the 23rd of December, 2023. During a pretrial hearing on March 12, 2024, prosecutor Adam Lally told the following court, lastly, what I will say in reference to the federal grand jury, what is also clear from the federal grand jury is that this was an investigation which was initiated by the defendant and David Yannetti, Mr. Yannetti. So to claim that he was in the dark or that he didn't know about this federal investigation, every bit of discovery that the federal investigation has from the state case was provided by Mr. Yannetti. Nothing was asked for by the Commonwealth. So this goes to these ARCCA witnesses. Nothing was asked for by these ARCCA witnesses from the Commonwealth. They didn't want more information. They just took what was given to them by essentially the defense team and did their report. That is not an independent investigation. And should they testify in this trial, which I think they will, they are going to be destroyed on cross-examination. Okay, going back to Adam Lally's statement, nothing was asked for from the Commonwealth. Nothing was asked for from the district attorney's office, the state police. So again, what I was imitating before in reference to the motion to dismiss, I have no idea what they have seen or what they haven't seen, how much of the file, how much of the discovery or anything else. It's all sort of been provided and colored by Mr. Yannetti. And this goes back to November 2022. So to then claim that you were sandbagged or didn't know about an investigation that you initiated over a year before, under late December of 2023, I think is disingenuous, would be about the nicest term that I can come up with that. So let's actually listen to him say.
Again, I know the court has reviewed all the materials, and I know the court is well aware of the standard, and it's a standard which I would submit just simply hasn't been met here. To characterize counsel's actions in this particular proceeding with specific reference to the media and saying it's different, I think is minimization to the highest degree. Essentially, what the defendant is positing, or what counsel is positing in this motion, is that due to a recorded statement by the district attorney over 6 months ago, that impinges on her right to a fair trial, or it impinges, shows some sort of deleterious motive on behalf of the district attorney in the handling of this case. The statement, as the district attorney indicated in it, was in response to an extraordinary degree of relentless and really relentless harassment and intimidation of nearly every witness associated with this case, which included a July 22nd rolling rally of nearly 100 people traveling to witnesses' homes and calling them murderers. That is largely what this was in response to, and is in complete conformity with Massachusetts Rules of Professional Conduct 3.6b6 that permits an attorney to make a warning of danger concerning the behavior of a person involved when there is reason to believe that there exists a likelihood of substantial harm to an individual or to the public interest. It's also in conformity with Rule of Professional Conduct 3.6c, which allows for such statements to rebut the prejudicial effects of the defendant's and her counsel's misconduct. Now, again, I know the court has read through the Commonwealth's opposition, but just to highlight a few of those particular incidents. So yes, the July 31st, I believe, was the ruling in regard to the, for lack of a better term, a gag order. And I think it's been somewhat inappropriately or just patently falsely represented to this court in public what that ruling said. It indicated that the statements of counsel arguably crossed the line of permissibility under Rule 3.6, and that meaning defense counsel. That the inflammatory statements about the Commonwealth and witnesses, particularly by Attorney Jackson, appear to have fueled much of the publicity in this case. And that's a quote from the court's ruling. And that the defense counsel did not have carte blanche to speak with the media, and going forward, defense counsel should ensure that their statements are limited in conformity with the rules. And it denied the Commonwealth's request for that gag order at this time, denying it without prejudice. And then Mr. Yannetti wants to get up here and say that they largely stopped making extrajudicial statements after the court's ruling. And so I guess largely stopping would then include August 22nd, the day before the district attorney's statement, a ABC News broadcast in which Mr. Yannetti and Mr. Jackson were featured for a 9-minute, 37-second segment, in which Attorney Jackson indicated that pieces of taillight were planted after the fact, that the victim walked into the house. I think he was confronted, was likely brought down to the basement. I think the confrontation got physical, and he was beaten to a point of unconsciousness, that he had defensive wounds, bruises on the back of his hands, largely of which is all not only not true, but directly contradictory to the vast amount of evidence that has been turned over in this case. Mr. Jackson then went on to continue that this was a cover-up, and indicating that John was murdered inside that house, his body was placed outside. This also continued into September. September 17th, the defendant traveled.
Thank you, Robert P. I appreciate it. Nice seeing you. All right, back to Lally. Lally's so good in this. He's just up against it, really up against it all.
Jackson, Attorney Little, and a woman believed to be a television news producer to the victim's home, to Mr. O'Keefe's home, in direct violation of her conditions of release, where she has to stay away from. as well as other places of interest and sort of tour around the town of Canton. When balancing the amount of public and prejudicial statements made by the defendant and her counsel, the Commonwealth would suggest that then characterizing the district attorney's statement from over 6 months ago, threatening her right to a fair trial, is simply a position that's just untenable. Now, in context, as far as those particular statements, those particular actions go, as the court is well aware, there is a significant history between this defendant, Mr. Yannetti, Mr. Jackson, and the social media blogger, Mr. Kearney, who's now been indicted for intimidation of witnesses in this case. And with reference to that, there is a significant, despite public indications to the contrary, that indications from Mr. Kearney's phone, which was seized, is that there is a precipitous amount of phone communications, indications of communications between Mr. Kearney and Ms. Reed on a signal messaging app, an encrypted app, as well as, I believe, about 189 phone calls over a span of a few months. And that's just what's indicated or contained in the phone. There is also, going back to the spring of 23, direct communications between Mr. Kearney and Mr. Yannetti and Mr. Kearney and Mr. Jackson. They went out to lunch with Mr. Kearney following a court date in May of 2023. And this is a person who counsel in the memo seems to want to distance themselves from, based, I'm presuming, on subsequent indictments. But the truth is in the phone. The phone doesn't lie as far as those communications are concerned, as far as those communications between counsel and between the defendant in this particular case. So to say that this is a different case, again, I would suggest is a large minimization of what actually has transpired here. Lastly, what I'll say in reference to the federal grand jury, what is also clear from the federal grand jury is that this was an investigation which was initiated by the defendant and Mr. Yannetti. So to claim that he was in the dark or didn't know about this federal investigation, every bit of discovery that the federal government has from the state case was provided by Mr. Yannetti. Nothing was asked for from the Commonwealth. Nothing was asked for from the district attorney's office, the state police. So again, what I was intimating before in reference to the motion to dismiss, I have no idea what they have seen or what they haven't seen, how much of the file, how much of the discovery or anything else. It's all sort of been provided and colored by Mr. Yannetti. And this goes back to November of 2022. So to then claim that you were sandbagged or didn't know about an investigation that you initiated over a year before until late in December of 2023 is, I think, disingenuous. Disingenuous would be about the nicest term that I can come up with. Thank you.
Yeah, try lying. Try a lie. Try a lie. Try an offensive lie. How about that? Oh, these lawyers. It's so outrageous, the behavior. By Hank Brennan, Robert Alessi. Hank Brennan, excuse me. Oh, sorry. Alan Jackson, David Yannetti, Robert Alessi, Elizabeth Little. Hank Brennan is on the up and up. Oh my God. Absolutely ridiculous, their behavior in this case. We didn't know we were sandbagged. Sandbagging is what they've been doing with these ARCCA witnesses and hiding discovery so that we have to have these pointless voir dires as punishment, which isn't really much of a punishment or a sanction to the defense. So it's not all that useful to the Commonwealth if you don't have the material to and know what questions to ask. They profiled these. If they didn't specifically arrange it so they got Judge Cannone, they certainly profiled her and knew that they could get away with a lot and did. Protective order, prosecutor Hank Brennan. This is why I said Hank Brennan, because it's right in front of my face. Prosecutor Hank Brennan stated during the February 25th, 2000 motion hearings, the protective order was clear. that there was no discussion outside of court about the federal material, and that there was nothing in the protective order or direction from the U.S. Attorney's Office that the Commonwealth had any right or privilege to contact any witnesses. Everything is done by the book, by regulation, through TUI requests. As the court's aware, there are certain materials throughout the duration of this case that have been disclosed to the defense pursuant to protective orders. Protective orders are sacred. If there was no need for a protective order, there wouldn't be a need for court exemption to protect the material. When an attorney violates Mass Rule Criminal Procedure 48, the court can impose sanctions. And in this instance, that was the genesis for this motion, that there were recently provided materials that the court ordered the defense not disclose to the public. Those materials were just some of very important materials in the reciprocal discovery motion. The defense put the materials into the public domain despite the court protective order. Now it's important for the court to determine the nature of that violation because the ability for the court to sanction is broad and wide. There have been other violations, but at this point, a month before trial, and given the history of this case, it is important to make sure that these types of violations don't happen again. What stands out to me in the reciprocal discovery violation, this reciprocal discovery motion, that the defense used as a vehicle to disseminate this information to the public, is that they create an argument suggesting why is it important to include this information in the memorandum, page 9. What they suggest to the court is because the trooper did not watch the closing, it is implied that he had been following the entire trial. That's absolutely no reasonable interpretation whatsoever, that because a witness, like any other witness, was not bound by a sequestration order by time of closing, didn't watch closing. There's no good faith basis whatsoever that this witness watched other parts of the trial. It is an empty shell to make that suggestion, which then gives them the tunnel to put this information into the public. When you look at the nature of the information, it is obvious why the defense wants this information in the public. It's part of a consistent public relations campaigns they have sought. Okay, for those in the back, it is part of a consistent public relations campaign they have sought. It is a month before trial, and rather than discuss the facts and litigate the facts in front of a jury, it is a deliberate, ongoing, strategic investment to reach the potential jury pool. And it doesn't matter if it's attacking the trial court, the state police, the prosecutor, the prosecutor's office, witnesses. It is saturating the public with sometimes disinformation, parts of information, which will inevitably is going to make jurors' job much more harder. It is unfair to the court, it is unfair to the people of the Commonwealth, it is unfair to the prospective jurors. I kind of want to see Hank Brennan say that.
Introducing the UNGA, the non-lethal self-defense platform. Lightweight and simple to use. It uses an easy-to-load 5-round magazine.
See how
if you buy Fruit Loops in our country, they're loaded with food dyes.
Back when we were growing up, cereal was simple.
As the court's aware, there are certain materials throughout the duration of this case that have been disclosed to the defense pursuant to protective orders. Protective orders are sacred. If there was no need for protective order, there wouldn't be a need for court intervention to protect the material. When an attorney violates Mass Rule of Criminal Procedure 48, the court can impose sanctions. In this instance, that was the genesis for this motion. There was recently provided materials that the court ordered the defense not to disclose to the public. Those materials, which is some of very important materials. In the reciprocal discovery motion, the defense put the materials into the public domain despite the court's protective order. Now, it's important for the court to determine the nature of that violation, because the ability of the court to sanction is broad and wide. There have been other violations, but at this point, a month before trial, given the history of this case, it is important to make sure that these type of violations don't happen again. What stands out to me in the reciprocal discovery motion that the defense used as a vehicle to disseminate this information to the public is that they create an argument suggesting why it is important to include this information. In the memorandum, page 9, what they suggest to the court is because the trooper did not want to watch the closing, it implied that he had been following the entire trial. There's absolutely no reasonable interpretation whatsoever that because a witness, like any other witness who was not bound by a sequestration order at the time of closing, didn't want to watch a closing, there was no good faith basis whatsoever that that witness watched other parts of trial. It is an empty shell to make that suggestion, which then gives them the tunnel to put this information into the public. And when you look at the nature of the information, it's obvious why the defense wants this information of the public. It's part of the consistent public relations campaign they have sought. It is a month before trial, and rather than discuss the facts and litigate the facts in front of the jury, it is a deliberate, ongoing, strategic investment to reach the potential jury pool. And it doesn't matter if it's attacking the trial court, the state police, the prosecutor, the prosecutor's office, witnesses. It is saturating the public with sometimes disinformation, parts of information that inevitably is going to make a juror's job much more harder. It is unfair to the court. It's unfair to the people of the Commonwealth. It's unfair to the Commonwealth. It's unfair to the prospective jurors. And so not only is there really not a logical or a reasonable basis to put this information in, but when we look at the nature of the information, it becomes clear. And so we turned over this information 3 times. We did turn it over as a text message and notice of discovery 51. A protective order was issued, docket 416. We produced it, notice of discovery 57. And again, there was a protective order. And then finally, notice of discovery 58 with a protective order. This is just some of the materials. It is beyond dispute that the defense violated that protective order. So considering sanctions, I ask Your Honor to consider the history of efforts by the defense in this case to disseminate information or to make statements that should not reach a prospective juror before this jury trial starts in less than a month. Now, after they disseminated this information, it wasn't within 24 hours. It was within 24 hours. This was in the local news, the national news, newspapers, online, and it seems that was the very purpose it was spit out into the community. And so the common position is there needs to be a sanction to stop.
You know, Yannetti said he didn't know. He didn't know. He just forgot. He forgot that the material he put in a filing was under a protective order. Oh, how could he? You just couldn't check it out. You didn't have any other lawyers. Couldn't have asked Elizabeth Little, check this over. No one else. All the people who signed it. No one noticed that they were leaking out protected information. Of course they did. They just knew that Cannoni's not going to do anything about it. So, all right, let me see if I can power through. This has been very long. Thank you for staying with me. For everybody who's still with me, it's been a long one. I'm going to try. Maybe I should revisit this tomorrow on the break. Karen Reed's defense attorney team sent a letter to the U.S. Attorney's Office about the protective order. And David Yannetti stated that on January 24th that the DA's office and Karen Reed defense team participated in a conference call with the U.S. Attorney's Office. So it's a cozy relationship with this federal investigation and Karen Reed's defense team. I mean, you can really look at them at one and the same. And according to March 4th, 2005 hearing, is there a clip? Could I play a clip instead of reading all this? No. Okay. He said, let me see if I can just read a little of this. There has been an ongoing promotion to talk about ARCCA and federal witnesses and what the opinions are, which aren't in line with reality, the reports, or the testimony. It is a campaign. In addition to this recent protective order violation, they got attention that money can't buy for a party. Other information that was provided in our case and was provided in the collateral case was again sent out into the public domain. Again, arguing the case in a court of public opinion and not in the court. The government has, back to Brennan, the defense has not only trampled over 3.6, they have alluded to continually above matters they have no basis in fact. They have alluded to continually about matters that have no basis in fact. So, District Attorney Morrissey is well aware he's a target of a federal investigation. We're aware of the hearing in Norfolk County Superior Court in the Karen Reed matter. In connection to this matter, at no time has the U.S. Attorney's Office named any person or entity. There is no response by the Attorney's Office. Okay. So, right. And then it ended up that Hank Brennan ended up apologizing because Court TV played a clip, but where Yannetti talks about the federal investigation. I don't understand. He did appear with Karen Reed on Court TV from that hearing. I don't know why he apologized. I mean, he said this was made by Mr. Yannetti, and I have a clip of it. He says, this is where he said District Attorney Morrissey is well aware he's a target of a federal investigation. We're aware of a hearing in Norfolk County Superior Court in the Karen Reed matter. In connection to this matter, and no time has the U.S. District Attorney's Office named any person or entity. That was the response by the U.S. Attorney's Office after they implied, and that was made by Mr. Yannetti, and I have a clip of it. He also appeared on Court TV with Miss Reed. The Commonwealth is moving for a protective order of these letters. Okay. So that'll give you just like a little idea of the battle back and forth. Maybe I'll finish it tomorrow, but I have been going and I'm about to drop. I've been going for 2 hours, 38 minutes. Is everyone still there? How Handsome Devil says the judge has lost her love and feeling for the defense. You might be right. Angela says ARCCA will be allowed, but I'm praying limited to a 2024 report. I hope so. Yeah. All right. This has been crazy long. I hope it makes sense. I'll go over some of it tomorrow, maybe hopefully at the breaks, or maybe tomorrow night. I'll continue talking about this because ARCCA will be the subject of tomorrow's today and tomorrow are all melding into one. Tomorrow's hearing, we're going to have testimony in the morning. Then we're going to have, I believe this is the way it's going to go, testimony in the morning. Then we're going to have the voir dire, ARCCA voir dire in the afternoon. What did I just do? And so please support the channel. I'm really working hard to make episodes almost every day during this trial. So I'm running the show during the day. I'm running the trial during the day and doing shows in the evening. Send a donation via Venmo, buy me a coffee, become a patron, and get access to exclusive content you won't find anywhere else. The links are all in the description of this episode. I want to thank Marie Horton. I want to thank Tammy for sending me a super chat. She says, Roberta Glass, all the trial days and live streams, can you make at ease our minds you're not going to lose your vocals? Haven't lost them yet. I'm not going to lose my voice. We care deeply for you. Oh, that's so sweet, Tammy. We care deeply for you. And if you lost your voice, we would be a mess. We would need you. I'd figure out a way. I'd put a microphone on my throat and I don't know. Make you listen to the vibrations. I don't know. I'd find a way if I lost my voice to communicate. We need you. Love you. Love, not want, need. Oh, that's so sweet, Tammy. Thank you so much. Thanks, Breeze Coyote. Appreciate it. Thank you, Tammy. Very sweet. Thank you, Forensic RN. I appreciate it. I will see you all. I will see you all back here tomorrow at 9 a.m. and we'll watch the trial together. ARCCA testimony in the afternoon. I'm really looking forward to hearing that. I think Hank Brennan might have some surprises for us tomorrow. I'm just feeling it. I don't know. I may be wrong. I just kind of think he may know more and may reveal more tomorrow. We'll see about what they've been hiding. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 9 a.m.
I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident. But with lying lawyers, I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment, I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system I clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin, making money. Truth is my second victim. Carry, Jen. Like John, you were my mark. My innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit yet. Yeah. I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident. But with lying lawyers, I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment, I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system I clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin, making money. Truth is my second victim. Carry, Jen. Like John, you were my mark. My innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit yet. Making money.